All right. So my name is Sandy Cooper, and I know several of you just from kind of being involved in this particular conversation on Outfitters for since the beginning. Been very blessed to be invited back. Um, so we're going to spend just a little bit of time today talking about our work in neighborhoods. Um, and it's just been the most amazing experience. Well, we've had amazing experiences when we came back to look at this work. But let's share a little bit about how we kind of got to where we are right now. So, in every good story, there's always love, loss, and a place for continued growth. So, the story about reconnecting and rerouting in our neighborhoods started over 6 years ago. We just started noticing that people we work for some reason, their lives seem to be getting smaller. Not everybody, but a few people. And it wasn't because we stopped believing or living in our values, but something just shifted. Despite our culture of care and our deep rooted values around the people to lead good lives and to be living lives in their community, we just noticed shifts. Um, and we noticed them, they were big enough that they just really started a conversation about how do we get here? Um, and we noticed that as people are aging, their interests were changing, of course. Somebody moved out of a community where he lived for close to 20 years, so that made some impact, obviously, for him. Health changed for some folks, and our normal approaches, things that we kind of have centered in our value base and our, the toolboxes that we all use, for some reason, we just weren't getting a connection or a big enough connection um, to see us kind of come over the hurdle in some of the lives of the people that we were really thinking deeply with. Um, so the noticing and all the shifts brought us to the conversations with, and there were many conversations. There were conversations with the people we work for, of course, to kind of see where they kind of were or are in their moment, with their families. A few of their friends would show up and talk. We talk with the team members, and some have been around a really long time. We are lucky to have longevity, and they know people really well. They were very interested in the conversations. We had conversations with the advisor team, and that's the team of people that work directly with me, with Patty. And each advisor supports 4 to 6 people. Um, uh, Within our organization. That's part of their work. And community is a huge part of the work for the advisor, figuring out resources and connecting people to those resources, or connecting team members to resources so it can work well for the person. So, what we noticed in our conversations as they were getting deeper with people, Patty and Diamond Harges were also having conversations. And Diamond, of course, is known for his roving listening in communities. So just imagine for a minute putting Patty Scott and Diamond in a room with a blank canvas and kind of wonder what's going to happen next. And that's exactly what happened. Patty and Diamond started talking. Listening to the conversations that we were having with people. He joined us there in homes, living rooms, communities with people. Through those conversations, it became pretty clear that we needed to do something different than we were doing. And through Patty's brilliance and Diamond's patience with us and his background and skill, we started walking in communities with people. After hearing where they were, kind of listening to what was happening, we started this adventure with folks. And Diamond and Patty walked through several communities with us. I will tell you, when we first brought this idea to the team of advisors, when you kind of see the deer at night, when the deer in the headlights look, some folks were pretty nervous about, oh my gosh, where is this going? What's going to happen next? But one of the things that we were able to help people understand is we're going to come together as a team with people that we work for in communities where folks live. We're going to create safe places for us to explore and learn. We're going to show up in our gifts. were going to come with some responsibility to fail and not be afraid to, as long as it's responsible and when nobody's getting hurt in that, of course. And we were really encouraging people to just show up and be open. And they did. I think they did mostly because they know they were in a place when Patty says, come and be open, or I say, come and be open and you're safe. They really can believe they're safe. And that let people just kind of sit in it and all the uncomfortableness. We asked people not to bring a lot of answers. We wanted them to come and be curious, and they did. They came with some fear and apprehension. But after a few moments in the community, a few experiences with Patty and Diamond leading the charge originally, the people that didn't have the deer in the headlights look really got vested. And Doug is one of those people because he's just a natural community builder. Once a few of the advisors really started to connect to this idea of walking in the communities, showing up in places, listening deeply, not going with an agenda. It was a lot of this was about building the person's own social capital. It was a game changer for folks. And the more momentum the people who were comfortable in these moments got, the more stories that were told and shared, the more experiences that the people that we work for had an opportunity to live and benefit from. And sometimes things didn't go as planned. Not only the Dougs in the conversation got confident, so did the other folks that were pretty worried at the beginning. We started noticing them really getting comfortable and showing up because this was made to be a very natural experience. And the ground rules were pretty simple. Besides coming into a safe place that was created for you to learn, it was also about a few things. Meet people, take names, be courteous about that, and come back and tell the story. And as folks began to practice that, more opportunities began to open for people. The other thing that happened was Patty made the investment to make this a part of our culture, the new way we were working within our culture of caring and our culture of community presence, our culture of believing that people should have good lives and big lives. The investments in Diamond coming back periodically and Patty coming out with us each time made a difference for people because they could see that this wasn't just something they were expected to do. This was something that's a part of who we are in our culture. And that made big shifts in the way folks saw the work that they're now responsible to do. We also made this opportunity and experience a part of our onboarding process. As we onboard a new staff member, part of the onboarding is going out and helping the communities with someone in the person's community where they're going to work and kind of being engaged there. So at one of our last conversations we had with Diamond, we invited a mom, her name is Mary, and we happened to work for her two lovely young men down in the Freehold area in New Jersey. And Mary wanted to experience the walk with Diamond and us and Patty, and she couldn't do it that day. So she had asked if she could experience it at a different time. And her choice was to experience it with people that she's working with on a state level from the Division of Developmental Disabilities and a couple other people and some community folks. And Josh, who's on the screen, who is someone that's like part of our Neighbours family, but he works in, he has his own support group or support coordination organization and happens to support the two young men that are Mary's sons. So this particular day that Doug is going to jump in and share a little bit about happened to be in the community where Mary's sons live. Mary was able to join, and some folks from outside of the organization wanted to have an opportunity to understand what this process looks like and how it impacts people that we work for. So Mr. Doug Adams. I believe you have a story that Patty has a slide about a barber shop where you had some shifts and changes and things going on. You're on mute, Doug.
Thank you. I have to say I'm really excited about this conversation, and I will only edit a little bit in the fact that what we're experiencing, what we're walking through now, and what I'm going to share with you is a new representation of an existing DNA in Neighbours. One of the very first people that I had the opportunity to work for in Neighbours lived in Hackensack. And one of the very first things that I was able to do with him is to go around in his community. Back then, we only had photos. At least the phones had cameras on them, but just kind of taking a photo montage of the places where he had standing. And Dave helped and took those photos and put them in a wonderful presentation. And that gentleman's not with us any longer, but Tyrone Towers was one of the first people that helped me to kind of grow in that context. And so I really see this as an evolutionary process that, as Sandi said, got bogged down in some periods, but with her energy, Patty's energy, and the support of Diamond, it really got a new life breathed into it. And so Mary contacted me, and we were talking about her sons, her heart for her sons, and their life in the community. And so she had scheduled this moment for us to come and walk. And I have to say that she was very helpful in the sense that she kind of knew the community. And so one of the things that I first had to do was go there myself. I know a little bit about the area, but not enough to really kind of chart out a path or a journey that would be helpful to us or the people that were coming to kind of really get the experience. And so where would we park? Where would we meet at? Things of that nature. And then what areas would be reasonable for us to walk through and really try and get the most out of that moment. And so they had a wonderful municipal parking area. You know, there was a great watering hole, coffee shop, juice bar kind of place where people could kind of discover their fancy, and it allowed us to sit outside afterwards and debrief. And one of the things that we kind of had a really good group, which was kind of exciting, the number of people that were there and that showed up from DDD to be a part of that. Josh and his group was there. We had some of my colleagues that I work with at Neighbours, because also this experience wasn't just for me or for the people from DDD, or if Mary had came and been there. It was also a part of what we really started doing, the evolutionary journey, was making sure that we were engaging some of our direct support personnel, some of our senior direct support personnel, in that, inviting anybody who was going to have context or space in the guys' lives to kind of really see the community the way we see the community, and to begin to think about what artifacts they could discover in the community. And so as we started going, we initially decided it'd probably be best to break up the group and to have two groups, because it probably wouldn't have been as successful or as intimate. We probably wouldn't have got the reception that we got in many places if we walked in there, 7, 8, 9 people deep. And so we realized that looked more like a posse. So we split up, and Josh went with another group, and he'll be able to share some of the artifacts that they found. And one of the things you want to look for are what are natural gathering places? What are places where people come together and, they, for whatever reason, their defenses tend to drop a little bit. They tend to be more organically interactive. Restaurants are places like that, coffee shops, juice bars. But historically, no matter what the communal dynamic is, barber shops and beauty shops are spots where people gather, let their hair down, and they interact. And so, of course, we stop at a local barbershop. Never been there. It may not be a barbershop that I would personally choose to go through. But I absolutely know that when people go to places like this, they kind of open their hearts and their minds to whatever conversations will develop. And even with that, there was a tremendous surprise. So we go in, introduce ourselves, just a tidbit for everybody. The first chair is always the shot caller in a barbershop. It doesn't matter what the cultural dynamic. Shout out to February Black History Month, but this is a cross cultural reality. Go into a barbershop, the first chair is the dude's chair. And so we go in, we introduce ourselves, and he immediately begins to ask us about us, our purpose. What do we do? How are we involved? And what came out of it was he, as the barbershop owner who owns the building, has a young lady living upstairs above the barbershop who receives services from DDD and is someone who he was thinking about, along with her parents, about how to help her to have a more expanded life. So, that was chum in the water. For me, it was a real easy dynamic. Sometimes we just fall into things. We don't necessarily invent things. And so that conversation really opened up the door around, okay, tell me a little bit about it, talk to us about it. And we didn't want to take a whole lot of time, but in that conversation, we found out that this community, and we've seen this in other communities, already have people who their default is connected with somebody who's living life with a label, and their heart wants to see that person live a fulfilling life, wants to know that that person has a place of presence in the community. And so we got a chance to talk to Mike. Mike was a good dude. I promised that I would go back and see him, which is really, really an important thing. That it's not just to stop in, do tell, hey, this is here, great, we saw you, it's a landmark, let me get a souvenir and walk away. But it was this ideal of what does it mean to begin to look at how we can build a bridge towards some type of significance that goes beyond that moment. And so I went back, and Mike was really serious about, as the kids say, Mike was on business. Because as soon as I came in, he said, I recognize you, but tell me again, what is it? And so I just reintroduced myself, I told him I was going to come back, just coming back to follow up and see what I might be able to do or help out, or where I might be able to direct somebody. He said, hold on. He got the young lady's father on the phone right there. And whereas dad was not able to have a conversation at that moment, we weren't able to connect. He made sure to connect with dad to say, hey, listen, there's this guy who does some of this work, and he's interested in maybe seeing how we can help the young lady's name, kind of get connected to some things and to expand her life. And he actually used a term that we used when I first met him, that part of what we want to do is we want to engage with the community to find ways to help the individuals that we work for share their contribution and their gifts, and to help them to expand their life and to be able to pursue a bigger life. And he actually said, use the bigger life phraseology to dad. And so when I left out of there this time, he got my cell, I got his cell, he connected with dad. And so our next conversation will be hopefully to set up a conversation with dad to be able to hear a little bit more. I may not be able to do anything. They may not want me to do anything, but the opportunity of discovery is that something great could come out of this little seed. And if nothing else, it gives us a contact in the community that when we're working, or we have the guys in the community, one of the gentlemen, one of Mary's sons, he likes to help. He likes to do projects. He likes to do work. He likes to do things. One of the things that barbershops always need is somebody who's willing to come in and sweep. And even if it's just once or twice a week, to come in for a moment to connect with people who already have a heart to see value in the people that we work for, there's no telling what that thread, when we begin to pull on it, can produce. And so that was a very, very exciting discovery. And that was actually early in our process. We got a chance to look at some other footprints. You know, there's some other areas in that businesses and context. There's a great theater, a little small storefront theater that's there that we're excited about digging into and seeing what may come out of that. But I think the barbershop might be one of the top treasures that in this whole process of walking with the community that I've been able to discover.
Thanks. Thanks, Doug. I want to have Patty do the next screen. We may have run over a little bit, so I want to get us back on track. But this
Yeah.
was a little statement from the person, Susan from DDD. I asked her to, I told her we were doing this and I asked her to write it. I'll just let you guys read it on your own. But I thought it was pretty powerful shift for her because when she walked into the morning and I talked to her privately, she did not think she was going to experience what she did. So kudos to you, Doug. And Josh, just real quick, because you were there and you had a chance to experience this firsthand in a community for people that you work for and their support coordination. What did you take away from that day? What was the big shift for you?
I mean, there was a lot that day. First off, the day, it was kind of refreshing in a way, right? Like I think a lot of, for me anyway, a lot of what we do is the paperwork and the back end type stuff. But to be in the community with people is a lot different, right? So I got a lot out of it. I mean, I think the one thing that I think that stands out to me anyway, is how, I don't want to say how willing the community was, but how open the community was to even have conversations, right? Like Doug, you went into the barbershop, started talking to the guy right away. He was open. The customers were open. Everybody, really formed that community and they cared, right? And like in Doug's example, with the young woman that was living there was a genuine interest in her well-being and her future and her life, and I think that's all over the place. I really do. I believe that more communities offer that than we know, because we don't explore enough a lot of times. So that really stuck out to me, and of course my wheels are always always going. So I'm thinking about how in my organization what I can do to maybe help other providers, even facilitate some of those relationships, or even within our organization to do it. But that, I mean, that was it. It was just community. That's, if I could sum it up in one word, it was community. And willingness to be part of something bigger.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Doug. Sorry we ran over a smidge, but we get excited about this work and we appreciate the time. And my parting words would be, just start small, start somewhere, and embrace your curiosity. It definitely has paid off for us. So thank you for the opportunity today.